see. And what we're sergeant and two desks. No fun. So, no, thank you very much. I'll be back on full line. Topping Mondays in Wales.
Mondays.
Yeah, and Griffiths.
Yeah.
Not that bad to get checked.
I'm just local to Robinson.
All right. Okay.
Probably not again.
This is part of the problem. It's that I don't is that social behaviour? I think we should be. Yeah. So it could be, yeah, it's not necessarily you. I think if the UK has been. What is it not? Every day's a busy week, I'm afraid. So that's what it just takes time. You realise how long you do it. How many days of that? Yeah, it's a lot more nicer than the old cold and Nelson Way stations. We then were dropping his bits. So, I don't know what's going to come up at all. But, yeah, I would imagine so.
I know one of the councils was turning it into something else.
Yeah, I know there have been some talk months months and months ago about a possible shops wanting to take over it, but I don't think it ever came to anything I'm aware of. So, let's say that our little centre's going to get dropped, and then it's going to be all shop units.
Is that Nelson one covered permanently?
Say again, sorry?
Is Nelson covered permanently?
No, Nelson covers the whole Pendle. Yeah, it's alright. It's got a big car park.
Car park, too big. I 20 minute walk from the car park to the city.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're alright.
I know, you think you've seen my mum, don't you?
Good evening, everyone. We're on 6:30. Thank you. Good evening and welcome all to West Craven Area Committee. My name is Laura Whip. I'm Deputy Chair and I'm just filling in for Councillor David Hartley, who's away on a boat trip, I believe.
He's away down south.
It's away down south. Right. First order of business then. Could I ask everyone to do some introductions? I'll to my left for a start.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. My name is David Walker. I'm the Assistant Director for Operational Services and the Area Coordinator for the West Craven Committee.
Hello everyone, I'm Laura Brown, Senior Planning Officer in the Planning Department at Pendle Council. Hello everybody, I'm Councillor Brian Hartley, Bonaldswick Ward.
Hi, I'm Chris Church, another councillor by Bonaldswick Ward.
Hello, I'm Susan Land, councillor for Evian Courts.
Christine Ellie, Parish Council, Kelbrook and Suff. Karen Shorrock, not a councillor. Clark and RF4, and I'm representing Salters.
Good evening, I'm Todd Griffiths, PCSO of the Pendle Neighbourhood Team.
PC Gareth Ingham.
Good evening. Glenn Whittaker, Evian Courts Ward Council.
Hi, I'm Andrew Inman for Ely Town Council.
Hello, I'm Leanne Barrett, representing Bonaldswick Town Council this evening.
County Councillor David Witt from Lancashire County Council.
Joan Eccles, Accredited Administrator at Pendle Council.
Thank you very much. So just so everyone's aware, a number of us are ward councillors and can vote at tonight's meeting. A lot of the other members are co-optees, so they can participate fully in the meeting, they can propose and second motions and participate fully in debates, but they cannot vote. So the members from the County Council and the Town and Parish Councils have no voting on here. So when you see hands go up and some people are just sat there, that's why. So thank you all. Item 1 then is declarations of interest. Councillor David Witt.
Thank you. Can I declare other registrable interest in item 5A in respect of to the plan application as a member of Lancashire County Council, and similarly on item 12 as a member of Lancashire County Council. I think that's it.
Thank you very much. Have you got any other registered interests? No, thank you. Item 2 then is public question time. So this is a chance for anybody
from the public to raise any questions for this committee that isn't otherwise on the agenda. And this can be anything you want as long as it's relevant, and we'll do our best to give you an answer. Absolutely.
Is there a number order?
So this is public question time, so just anyone who sticks their hand up can...
So can I go?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi.
Could I take your name? first
Yeah,
off?
Suzanne Beresford.
Susan.
Sorry, can I just clear? Are you wishing to speak about the planning application?
No, I'm not, no. And it's just questions for something that's actually quite important to people who live it. So good evening, Chair and members. My name is Suzanne Beresford. I used to live at Riddlefield Farm and then at Deerstone House, which we built, my husband and I. So I know the area very, very well. I wish to speak and ask questions on the decision of the Planning Appeal Inspectorate about Dart Lane being recommended as a restricted byway. My question, Chair, will come right at the very end. Hope you don't mind. Is that okay?
Yeah.
A restricted byway, it's a type of public right-of-way where the public has the right to travel on foot, horseback, bicycle and non-mechanical propelled vehicles, such as horse-drawn carriages. Motor vehicles and motorcycles are generally prohibited from being used. Dart Lane is a wildlife area and has been so for many years. It's been made into a restricted byway. Many of the trees and the hedgerows will have to be removed, cut back, destroying the habitat for many creatures. It's, for me, it's a microcosm of the earth. So if you like David Attenborough, that's where I am, and I think some of the people in Ely will be there too. There's oak, ash, holly, beech, rowan, sycamore, hazel, blackthorn, wild rose. All these trees individually will host many species, and many birds rely on this area for food and shelter. Safety. I don't know if any of you live on Birchall Lane or walk up and down there at all. Perhaps some of you do. You'll know it's very, very narrow, very narrow. Times change. The decision that made this was made on maps dating from 1700 to 1800. At that time there were small farms, Marfield, Windlefield and Lower Barges, and no motor vehicles. We're now in the 21st century. Marfield has 2 houses, Deerstone and Windlefield 4 houses, Lower Barges 2 houses. Plus glamping site with 8 pods, which all have access and egress up Birchall Lane. The camping site has regular taxis and takeaway deliveries. There are tractors and agricultural machinery and cattle wagons which use Birchall Lane daily, plus the cars from the farms. Is this a safe place for additional use of horse and cyclists? About a month ago, there was a serious accident with a speeding van which resulted in going into the lake at the bottom of Lower Barges, resulting in a vehicle from McAdams, rescue, recovery, having to come out, and police you might know, police also needed to attend this accident. Fortunately, there was no people there at that time. Tim from Hodgeside House, which is here today, he has photographs of the end of the accident with everything being pulled out. So if you'd like to have a look at those later, I think it would be interesting for you. Dart Lane, part of Dart Lane up to the boundary marker is in Lancashire, and above the boundary marker it's in the Yorkshire area. The committee from North Yorkshire Planning and Functions Committee in Lancaster in 2012 agreed there should be no modifications to the definitive mapping statements between B and D. This starts at the bottom of Dobson's Lane and comes right down to the boundary marker in Dark Lane. Yorkshire decided it was not a bridle way and it should stay as a footpath. The Lancashire section was passed as a bridle way by LCC, but when it went to appeal, the Government Inspectorate classed it as a higher status as a restricted byway. Do these items have any interest at Ely Town Council? Safety or environment? If this matter of safety and environment are your concern, I would ask if you could put it on the next agenda so it can be discussed in more detail. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So to summarise there, I mean, there's the issue of the designation of the byway, and some community safety concerns, is that?
Sorry, didn't get it.
And some community safety concerns there.
Definitely.
Yeah. So unfortunately, neither of those things are within the power of this committee. However, we have a representative from Lancashire County Council and the local policing team present. So hopefully they can give some insight to us into what we could take forward. Councillor David Witt.
Chairman, I'm aware and grateful for Suzanne raising this. I'm aware of the planning inspectorate decision. Of course, the highways, the public rights of way network, are the responsibility of the county council as highway authority. My understanding is that the planning inspectorate decision is towards the end of the process, not the beginning of the process. And there's very complex legal processes that have gone through, examining the use of the route and historical evidence which has been referred to. I would support the request to have it on the agenda for a future meeting, and I would suggest that Pendle Council writes to the Public Rights of Way section at Lancashire County Council asking for chapter and verse about the ins and outs of it. I'm not sure if Pendle Council has any ability to try and influence decision, because I think those decisions have been made, although there are opportunities to object. But I'm not sure whether it's a Secretary of State issue or a County Council issue. That's beyond my ken. But I think you'd need to ask the County Council what the ins and outs are.
Thank you. Could I ask, is there any input on the policing side of things with the incident?
The incident isn't something I have any knowledge of. I didn't attend it. It sounds like a crash that another officer attended. Ordinarily come onto my radar. So I don't really have any input into those matters.
Okay. If we do bring this back as an item at a future meeting, would you be able to get any details regarding that?
I can do. I can try.
Any sort of action? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, if somebody wants to email me, or through pen, it's left mine. When was the crash?
Saturday 16th.
Saturday 16th. 16th. At Barnoldswick. Yeah, I will have a look and see if there's anything that I can bring back to you. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Okay. So we have a proposal to bring this back as an item at a future meeting. Do I have an agreement? Yeah?
Yes.
Brilliant. Yeah, so we will formally bring this back and try and get some information. Our ability to influence that is very limited, but we'll try our best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. Jenny?
Thank you. This is about last night that happened in Barnoldswick down Gisborne Road. This letter came today from this whatever you call it, anyway, the highways department. It was like an invasion. We had about 15 highway wagons and what have you. Now, they were supposed to start the work last night at 8 o'clock and finish early hours of the morning. Well, they didn't start at 8 o'clock. They started, they cleared off at 10 o'clock. Now, we had torrential rain. But some of the jobs that they had done, it's not fit for purpose. But what I'm saying is, that's come today. What's it cost? I think county councils should take this on and find out why they've come out and not done the job properly. It is a disgrace, and it's not that. It's not fair on Pendle Council as well, because some of these potholes that they've filled, all the tar that they've put in, they haven't gone deep enough, and it's a mess. But they did not start. They cleared off at 10 o'clock. Where they disappeared to, I don't know, but they didn't do that. Now that I've got the letter here, if you want to pass it on to the county councillor, and they can, pass it on to their highways. Because it must have cost a fortune that last night, because some of them came from Birmingham, Liverpool, just to put in a few potholes, fell through the potholes. So that's that one. I'll keep it a little short and sweet. seeing as our dustbins, green bins could not be paid for. So I got in touch with Mr Walker, thank you, for sorting this out, but I do believe it was the barcode that was all wrong. That might be the wrong, it could be something else, but then the green bins didn't get empty, so we did bring Mr Walker again to ask, is it because of the barcode not working? Anyway, at least they did come out. I'm only saying thank you to Mr Walker tonight for getting the bins sorted and everything around that area. But there must have been other areas maybe. But when I was in the post office, people couldn't pay for their green bin. But I did let the post office people know that it's in the, you know, the hands of the authority, Mr Walker, and he has sorted it. I haven't paid him yet.
Reputation procedure.
And the other third issue is I brought up last month, and that was the parking down Skipton Road past the thing. Now it's getting really, really bad now. We've got children going to school, you can't get the push chairs, there's disabled vehicles, they can't use the footpath at all. And the other side's not too bad, but it's the other side. And it's going to put somebody's life in danger there, but I don't know whether we've heard anything about it or not. We can do something about that.
Does that get to the traffic liaison?
Yeah, it has been, but I don't know whether they've had a meeting yet, so it might be on the agenda for...
Yeah, so the Skipton Road parking issue has been referred to the traffic liaison meeting, which is an inter-officer group from Pendle and Lancashire who discusses that kind of stuff from the engineering perspective. I think they meet bi-quarterly or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's every few months. Yeah, it's every few months.
So I think we've just missed one, so I think we should be hearing back from them soon. But it does need a traffic order change to do anything legally. Hopefully that can be expedited once they discuss and figure out a solution there. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. On the roadworks issue.
Chairman, the actions of Multibo, who are the contractors for Lancashire County Council, are raising eyebrows across the board. The County Council are using emergency temporary traffic regulation orders at the drop of a hat to close roads, and in fact in some cases the notification of closures are coming through after the event, so the closures have already come into place, and the notice that people are given, if it is there, is very short indeed. It's what happened on Skipton Road in Earby on the 7th of May, and people were surprised, naturally surprised when all of a sudden the road was closed and there was all this roadworks. This is the same as what's happened down Gisborne Road in Barnoldswick. I did put a resolution to the County Council a couple of months ago about reviewing the way in which roadworks were done. Unfortunately, the majority group at the County Council threw that out. But it's my view, as an opposition councillor, obviously, on Lancashire, is that the situation does need reviewing, and the way in which these contractors are just moving into an area, closing roads at a whim, working overnight, as was the case on Gisborne Road, I think is unacceptable, unacceptable for residents, and the question of cost came up. I'm sure that the cost of working overnight, because you've got to keep a quarry open to produce the bitmap
At least double.
to go down road. So it's no doubt much more expensive. But I understand from what I found out that it's all part of the contract that the county council has with Multigo, and it's all a bit opaque. As I say, I'm not a member of the administration at County Hall. It is something that I've raised and will continue to raise. And I've got a question down at the next County Council meeting about it. In the short term, I have raised the issue with County Council officers, but I've not had a satisfactory response.
Thank you. That is all the time we have for public questions. It's only 15 minutes maximum. So I'm going to move on now to item 4, which is police matters and community safety issues. We do have a public speaker on this. I'm just wondering, do you want to come in after the... do you want to come in after
that's
the
fine,
police, or would you like to come in before?
I'll come in after, that's fine,
Yeah, so we do have some crime statistics that have come through.
Aren't we supposed to approve the minutes from last
We are, I just did miss that. Can we approve the minutes, please? Moved, seconded, thank you. All those in favour?
So I think I'm going to speak as asked if she can come in before we have update from the police, if that's okay.
Before? Yeah, you're welcome to speak.
I'm not sure if you're aware of the incident that happened on Friday at Suffolk Park.
I am well aware of it, yes.
Okay. So that was a family member of mine. It was a mother and a 4-year-old child that witnessed an indecent man on the park. So my question is, the victim's been interviewed, and I know they were speaking to a witness as well. Do we have an update on that?
Yes. The person responsible has been identified.
Yeah.
And this person has been arrested this morning.
Right, brilliant.
He was in custody this morning. He was identified for other matters as well.
Okay.
And so is currently, well, I don't know if he's still in custody or not, or what's happened with him, but he has been arrested. It was myself. So I'd heard about it over the weekend whilst I was on my days off. Came back in and we went and took statements off the person that witnessed it and the person that can identify the person.
Yeah, they contacted me and I gave them the sort of reference number to get in touch with yourselves. So obviously I know he's been arrested, but since the incident he has been seen walking through there again. There's been, I've had people speaking to me saying that there was frightened of him before this incident. There was making people around the area feel very uncomfortable. People didn't want the children walking into the park because of his behaviour.
Okay.
Wasn't.
What was, other than walking through the park since the incident?
No, he's walked through the town. Just his kind of behaviours have made people feel very uncomfortable. One gentleman contacted me and said that he didn't want his daughter to take the dog out on her own because he'd seen this individual. I've also had a lot of people contacting me for a name, which obviously I know it's an ongoing investigation. Some people have guessed.
Okay.
Because of recent things
It
that have
doesn't
happened.
take much for the Facebook and...
but I haven't given his name out.
Yeah.
But what I would like to say is I think it's a good idea to put something out to the public. There's people that are angry.
Yeah.
There's parents that are frightened for the children.
Sure. That's something that we are looking to do.
Yeah, I'm getting questioned for it because obviously I wasn't putting up with it.
It's something
that
I will be putting out.
Yeah.
However, until the people that I get an update from the people that have interviewed him for whatever he's been arrested for, until I get that update, I don't want to just
not much
piecemeal
plan.
out. I'd rather give a definitive,
Yeah.
this is what's gone on, this is what's happened.
Yeah,
And at
because
least
I think the public need to know that.
no, I completely agree.
Because obviously they're frightened for the children. There's people that are angry,
I can,
and that's why I'm not giving the name out, because I don't want people taking it into their own hands.
from what I know of the male, he is vulnerable. He possibly does have some issues. Not that that excuses his behaviour in it by any
No,
stretch
I
of the
believe it
imagination.
does, but why is he out in public if he's known for that kind of behaviour?
Yeah.
That's people's questions.
Yeah. Unfortunately, what happens with these people that commit these offences with the courts is out of our hands.
I know it's out of your hands, yeah.
And unfortunately, they are released back into communities, and they are usually given orders of some description to try and prevent their behaviours or stop their behaviour, whatever it may well be. Again,
I believe he's been questioned about these kind of behaviours before, that's all. There's people that know him that have contacted me.
I'm not
I'm just very concerned that he's still on the street.
Yeah.
And annoyed that a mother and a 4-year-old child has had to witness him with his trousers down in the park.
Yeah. So I can't lock him up indefinitely, and like I said, it's what would the courts do? I don't have any sway over. If they deem it fit for him to be released back into the community with orders or one thing, or if they decide that he should serve a term of imprisonment, then so be it.
There definitely needs to be an order of his release.
Yeah.
It's like I said, people have guessed his name, they know what he's done.
Neil, it has been 5 minutes, I can only have 5
Yeah,
minutes.
that's fine. That's fine.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I'll bring the discussion back to the committee. Brian.
Hello.
Hello.
Just following on from all of this, I'm a mother myself in the community.
Sure.
Are the Lancashire Police going to be issuing more street patrols to make? I know that you said he's been arrested this morning, but in the grand scheme of things, with everything that's going on in the news at the moment, I live in here, but my children go to Suffolk Park. What are the police doing as positive action to try to prevent or at least monitor these people that are allowed back out into the community?
So, obviously positive action has been taken by myself to get him identified, statements and one thing and another. Without delving into his history, if he does have any history of sexual offences, then he's managed by our what's called a MOSAVO team, Management of Sexual Offenders, and violent offenders as well. That's something that they'll be looking at, and they do visits, regular visits. I can do visits as well. Obviously, until I know what's happened with him being in custody today, I don't know what kind of is going to take place or may not take place. All I can say is that myself and Donna, our PCSO, are well aware of him, are well aware of what's happened, and we will be and have been out in Earby and across Barnoldswick, and if he is seen, then he will be getting stopped and spoken to, and if necessary action will be taken against him.
Well, thank you. And are the public going to be made aware of the updates following that? Because as Naomi has said, there has been so many concerned parents.
Absolutely.
We want to trust in our community, and the fact that everyone is,
100%.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't want to send out little bits of and then a little bit more, and I'd rather get an overall picture and say, right, this is what's happened, this is what we've got, this is what we're doing, and at least then everybody's in the picture. They're not reading little pieces of information. But I'm hoping that within the next couple of days I will have something definitive from the officers that have dealt with him.
Thank you.
Just from a policing perspective, I mean, obviously this is, quite a troubled person. I'm assuming it's some sort of psychosis episode. I couldn't really say, but I mean, do you feel there's adequate provision for adult social care for these kinds of issues? I mean, is this something we should be bringing up with the county County Council?
It's not really for me to comment on whether there's enough adult social care provision. I don't know how many people or what provisions there are exactly for people with mental health issues or anything else like that. I know there are quite a few things, bits and pieces out there for people, but again, it's not really for me to comment on that.
I hope you might have some insight just being on the front line.
Yeah, it's you know, we refer people into multi-agency meetings, and they look at people, you know, who can get involved with them, and then there's a wraparound kind of approach from them. Like I said, from you, the question of is there an adequate provision, that's not for me to comment on.
Okay. Does anyone else want to talk on this subject? No. Okay. So if we move on then to the crime figures.
Sure.
Yeah. Would you like to take these away or?
I mean, yeah, sure. Over the last 2 months, April and May, things have been very settled, shall we say, throughout West Craven. Antisocial behaviour has dropped massively. As you know, as you can see from the figures, burglaries are down at next to nothing. Criminal damages are very low. Assaults maintain the same figures year in, year out, give or take. But yeah, so far across West Craven, I think with the work that's been undertaken by myself and Donna and other people as well, and other agencies, to get on top of the youth issues that we did have, so far, which was so good.
Okay, yeah. I mean, the question I wanted to ask you was, do you feel this is a result of intervention, a statistical change, or is it, you know, reporting difference? And I think you've just answered that.
Yeah, I think certainly with the antisocial behaviour, and there are issues around figures. You know, like with antisocial behaviour, the ASB figures. It's for the Craven wards in May, there's been 5 reported incidents. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's 5 youth-related incidents. There's a whole bracket of antisocial behaviour. So that, if we're just looking at youth ASB, that figure could be even more. But so far, I think we've taken the right approach with people, and it seems to have worked.
Thank you. Councillor Harper.
I would just like to say, because we're always fairly quick to ask the police questions, actually how impressed I am at the acceptable behaviour orders that you've put in place that have had a positive impact on the community. There's been a really noticeable difference in people feeling threatened by the same group of people. So yeah, just like to thank you on behalf of people.
Thank you very much.
Okay, does anyone else have any other questions on the figures? No. Okay.
I would like drug dealing come under any of these, because we've had a lot of people mention things going on in the area. I think a lot of people have seen it.
Yeah. So that's not necessarily a recordable crime as such. Obviously, something going on, it gets reported to us, and then that's information that's passed to us that we use in a different way. However, as and when we stop a person, and if they've got drugs on them, that possession of drugs will then be recorded as a crime. So yeah, those aren't within those, and they're a little bit varied, shall we say. Myself and Donna are well aware of drug issues right across West Craven. It's something that we are starting to look at now that we've kind of got a grip of the antisocial behaviour. It's something now that we're trying to target. We have a list of names, addresses, areas, all sorts. The only thing I would ask, if anybody sees anything, hears anything, smells anything, please let us know. It's really important, because without that information from the public, it makes our job 10 times harder.
Thank you. Just on the issues of drugs then, I mean, I'm a firm believer that taking drugs should be considered a health issue. Usually it is cycles of addiction which people have. So is the police focused on distribution rather than usage? Or
Yes.
is it a mix? I just want to know. Yeah.
People have addictions, and in fact I was speaking to a known drug user a couple of hours ago, and he's managing his own addictions. You know, as long as nobody's not committing crime, then I'm not in a position to stop his addiction. He's referred to the correct people and will continue to refer people like that to where they need to go to. What we're looking at now is more, like I said, the distribution, people dealing the drugs, peddling the drugs, and how we can kind of try and get a grip on that.
Thank you. Yeah. Brian?
Just following on from that, the conversation that we'd had a couple of weeks ago, because I have still had some of our constituents concerned about that certain venue. Is that something, even though that's not classed as distribution, that you would still be looking into on behalf of the public?
Yes, we've got various ideas that are being bounded around that, yeah, it's pipeline stuff at the moment. We put 10 officers out in Barwick Town Centre 3 weeks ago, with specials, PCSOs, myself, police officers, and yeah, it was a fantastic evening. We were there with the intention of making sure everybody had a good time, and then observing, seeing what was going on, and if we needed to step in, then we would do. That's something that we're looking to do again and reorganise. It's just trying to pull those resources from other places to kind of help us with that. So yeah, that is in the pipeline, and it's something we are looking at.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if we move on from police matters to community safety issues, I just wondered, does anyone have any things they'd like to raise at this point? No? Thank you very much. Okay. On to item 5 then, planning applications.
If there's nothing else for ourselves, we'll
free
get going.
to go. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks very much. Take care.
Now, just because we've got 4 speakers on the erection of 28 number dwellings, detached garages, landscaping at Airdrie Road, Salterford, I'm going to take that planning application first. So that is the third one on the agenda. So can I just check that we've got the speakers here? So we've got Graham Wolf, the agent.
Yeah.
Thank you. Jasmine Loring. Thank you. Catherine Coulthard. Have I said that right? Yes. Thank you very much. And Wendy Callum. Thank you very much. Okay, we're all here. So I'll take you guys in that order. So this is a maximum of 5 minutes each, and I will be timing. To you, the agent, Graham. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Good evening, councillors. I haven't got a lot to say, actually. I'll keep this quite brief. So the main point for you to consider is that the site already has planning permission. So that's sort of explained in your report, and that permission has been implemented. So that can be built out at any stage. So given that the site has planning permission, any objections to the principle of development can't really be, well, they can be taken into account, but they can't carry any weight because the site has planning permission. So when that permission was granted, that took account of all of the technical matters as well: drainage, traffic, trees, ground conditions. And again, you know, a comparison between what's proposed and what's built, or what can be built, is what we should be looking at in terms of the impact of the proposed development against what's permitted. There's a couple of points in there about drainage and housing mix. The recommendation is to delegate approval, so there's comments in there saying that we will go away and look at things like housing mix, and we're doing that. That should be with you in probably next week, end of this week. And then the only other point, on page 27, if your report's numbered like mine, but page 27, third paragraph, I think this is a mistake somewhere because it doesn't make a lot of sense. So it says a new pedestrian footway is proposed to connect the site to a public footpath on the other side of the main road, on the northern side of the main road. I think that is about the northern side. There were two applications, one north, one south, opposite each other. This is the southern side. I think that comment relates to the northern side, which is a different application and it's not not before you. So it doesn't make any sense. You couldn't put a connection in between this site and that footpath because there's a road in the way. So that's it. And no further comments really, unless there's any questions.
Laura, would you like to respond for the benefit of the committee after every speaker, or summarise in full afterwards?
Summarise at the end.
Okay, yeah. If I bring Jasmine Laurie in, please, then.
Thank you. I stand here tonight representing 40 local objectors and a highly united community, asking this committee to reject the officer's recommendation to delegate grant consent for the application of 28 houses off Ivy Road. A lot of emphasis has been placed on the history of this site and its past outline permissions. But let's be entirely clear, this is now 2026, this was a long time ago. This is a brand new full planning application, and historic outline approval does not give a green light to a flawed layout that fails current standards, nor does it erase the reality that this site sits entirely outside the settlement boundary in an open countryside. Sorry. This committee must judge its application against the newly adopted Local Plan 4th edition, specifically policies SP02 and DN09, which strictly protect our rural boundaries from sprawling development. The planning grounds to refuse tonight are robust and fully defensible against an appeal. First, look at the severe flooding risk. Not only have both the lead local flood authority and Yorkshire Water lodged formal objections, but the developer's own drainage report by referee engineers have given you the planning grounds to refuse. In section 5.10 of the developer's own statement, their engineers admit that the site consists of impermeable cohesive clay and it is entirely incapable of absorbing water via a soakaway system. As you can see clearly in this photograph, this isn't theoretical. This is a natural stream that forms on the hillside during rainfall, flowing directly down the gradient towards the existing properties. Yet the developer's draft drainage strategy from April 7 is unbranded, undated and lacks a basic water quality risk assessment. Worse, it relies on a pipe network designed to connect to the development plot north of the Ivy Road, which you've mentioned, but because this committee has already rejected that, the developer's interconnected drainage layout is completely obsolete. Therefore, the engineering math behind it is also obsolete. Second, the drainage mess collides directly with highway safety. We all know Ivy Road is narrow, winding and plagued by dangerous pinch points and blind spots. By rejecting the site across the road, you have already formally recognised how dangerous and overstretched this highway network is. Forcing a major new 28-house junction into the exact blind spot is an unacceptable safety gamble. The proposed access point for this development sits right at the worst of these blind spots. To even attempt to make this safe, the developer is forced to physically relocate 40 to a 30 mile an hour speed limit boundary and try and squeeze in an artificial footway lane. LCC Highways claims there are no recorded history of injury collisions here, but their data completely ignores the regular vehicle damage collisions and terrifying near misses that we all see. Finally, the council's own report admits that this development will result in a staggering net loss of minus 28.44% for area habitats. The developer plans to tear up ancient species-rich hedgerows along the Abbey Road, yet the officer notes that the actual extent of the hedgerow destruction is not clearly marked on the plans. This is a snapshot ecological appraisal that completely misses the foraging bats and priority hedgerow habitats active on this boundary. Members of the committee, I know there is anxiety about appeal costs, but you have overwhelming solid planning grounds tonight. There is no overriding need to justify destroying this already saturated open countryside outside the settlement boundary. The Salterford Parish Council objected, Yorkshire Water objected, and the Flood Authority objected. Please be consistent with your previous decisions. Do not delegate your democratic oversight to oppose your officer agreement. Stand with your community, protect our boundary, and refuse this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Catherine?
Right, first of all, there is a natural spring of fresh running water that runs the length of the field. Now, if that is capped off, then where's that water going to go? Also, what it does, it goes down into a dike. Now, if that water is capped off, then any living creature down there will die because it will have no water.
Slightly closing, it's a large.
All right, okay. Right, now, on the outlook side, with the old planning permission, over 10 years ago, because I was on fighting it first time and fighting it second time, I had a bungalow to the side of my house. Now, as I stand here and I'm looking at that wall, that's going to be my view. Because I've got a gable end, a 2-storey gable end. I will have no natural winter light. My house will become a flood risk. My house has never been a flood risk. And I find that totally unacceptable. I will have nothing to look at apart from a wall like that. And I find that awful. You know, especially when originally it was a bungalow, so yes, I'd see the sky. But from sitting in my kitchen, I won't even be able to see the sky. Also, that will actually make the selling of my house not feasible. Because who would want to buy a concrete outlook? It's not on, it really isn't on. There have been no plans at all to open new doctors, new surgeries, new dentists, new schools, and we all find we can't make appointments there anyway. The way the plans are laid out at the bottom of the field is like a fork going like that, which opens up the fields. At the moment they are landlocked, so nobody can build on those fields. But with this development, it is putting roads in, it could possibly put roads into those fields, and this would mean that Ayrbeck, South, Kelbrook and Salterford would lose their individual charm and quaintness of being rural villages. Also, and I know this might sound really, really stupid, but who's changed the name of Salterford Road in Ayrbeck to Park Road Salterford? Who's changed it? On the planning it says Park Road. When did that happen? And with the one affordable house, that affordable house, which is the one that's outside my garden, I can actually touch it. It's only affordable once. After it's been sold, it's no longer affordable because that house will then go to the same price as the rest. So whoever buys that house will be making a lot of money once it's sold.
please bear with me. Some of this I'll go over probably what's already been talked about before as well. I wish to formally object to the proposed joining house development on the following grounds. Firstly, there's a clear lack of adequate infrastructure to support a development of this scale. Local services such as healthcare, schools, drainage systems and utilities are already under pressure. Adding an additional 28 households will place further strain on these essential services, potentially reducing the quality of provision for existing residents. Secondly, the development would result in significant loss of green space, including established trees and hedgerows. These natural features are not only important for the character of the area, but also play a vital role in supporting local ecosystems. The impact on biodiversity is a major concern. The site currently provides habitat for a range of wildlife, including birds, small mammals and insects. Removing vegetation and disturbing the land will inevitably lead to habitat destruction, displacement of species, some of which may already be under environmental pressure. There is also concern regarding the impact on local bird and animal populations. Nesting sites, feeding areas and natural corridors will be disrupted, which could have a long-term consequence for wildlife sustainability in the area. Furthermore, the land is known to be prone to flooding. Development on such land increases the risk of service water runoff that could exacerbate flooding issues both on site and in surrounding areas. This raises serious concerns about the safety and suitability of the location for residential housing. There are concerns regarding the proposed excavation works, which may destabilise the ground and adversely affect the integrity of surrounding property foundations, potentially resulting in ground movement and structural damage. Finally, the road network is not equipped to handle the additional traffic that this development will generate. Increased congestion, reduced road safety and added pressure on already busy routes will negatively affect residents in the wider community. Right, this is me now on a personal note. After viewing the plans, which is actually on the plans, I wish to formally object to the proposed construction of a two-storey dwelling near to the boundary of my property on the following grounds. Because actually on the plans, my house number is singled out, because if you look at my plans, there is a gable wall end actually singled out, and it's at an elevated level as well, so it's going to be doubly horrible.
That's like mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The scale height and positioning of the proposed building would have a significant and harmful impact on my property. The development includes a tall gable end that would sit in an elevated position very close to my boundary. This would result in an overbearing and intrusive structure dominating my outlook. The proximity of the building to my garden would create a pronounced boxed-in feeling, making the space feel enclosed and oppressive. Instead of an open outlook, I would be faced with a large brick wall, both from my garden and from the windows of my home, leading to a severe loss of visual amenity. There would be a substantial loss of privacy. A two-storey property in such close proximity raises clear concerns about overlooking and the direct impact of the enjoyment of my home and garden. In addition, the height and position of the structure would block natural light, casting shadow over my garden and potentially affecting light in my home. The loss of sunlight would significantly reduce the usability and enjoyment of my outdoor space. The proposed siting does not appear to provide sufficient space between the new development and my boundary. This lack of separation exacerbates all of the issues outlined above, particularly in terms of dominance, enclosure and loss of outlook. Other parts of the development affecting properties on Hillwood Drive benefit from more favourable layouts, such as open aspects, green spaces or the presence of a private road adjacent to the rear boundaries. In contrast, my property would directly face a two-storey brick wall with no such buffer or outlook. Overall, the structure would be overbearing, oppressive and out of keeping with what would be reasonably be expected in terms of living conditions and would have a detrimental impact on my quality of life. This creates an unfair, disproportionate impact on my parents.
30 seconds.
Right. The proposed dwelling should be therefore repositioned within the development to ensure a more appropriate distance between properties to prevent the overall residential development. In summary, the voters raised serious concerns regarding infrastructure, capacity, environmental impact, flood risk and increased traffic, and would also have a significant detrimental effects on my property. For these reasons, I strongly object to the application. That's me done.
over an hour.
1 second to spare. Yeah, thank you very much to the speakers who came tonight. It's much appreciated. I know it's very difficult coming up and speaking like this, and you all did very well. Before I bring Laura in, just to address the committee on everything the agent and yourselves brought up. To my mind, just to add to what's been said, there's three things that are new to my mind from when the last time this site was determined. One is biodiversity net gain, and I fail to see how this application can be sufficient biodiversity net gain culverting this open watercourse. I know from memory that culverting springs like this is a serious negative balance on that biodiversity net gain. I just fail to see how this application stands up on those grounds. The second one is we have since adopted a new local plan with new policies, and this application should be decided on its own merits to that new local plan and not to the previous application which has since lapsed. And the third one, the crossing, I bring this up because the agent mentions how he fails to see how a proper connection could be sought. But I would say to that the highway, is a crossing point potentially if there is a footpath there, and there absolutely is schemes that could be put in the highway to improve that crossing facility in what is a very stress-inducing environment with fast vehicles and a narrow road. And there absolutely could be a modal filter installed to improve people's crossing and to improve use of that footpath, which currently is very difficult on that road. So with those things in mind, Laura, could you just address what is relevant material to this planning application, and I'll bring speakers in after Laura's summarised. Yeah?
Thank you, Chair. To summarise some of the issues that have been brought up this evening, I'll begin with the ecology issues. There is a section in the report on BNG and ecology, and it's concluded that the landscaping plan would be able to make provisions for the necessary 10% uplift. So that has been fully assessed, despite the fact that this is a new application and BNG is something that's different from the previous submission. That's been fully assessed as part of this application. There is an update report in relation to drainage. Members will have seen this afternoon that at the bottom of the update report it sets out that following the publication of the committee report, a drainage scheme and a statement was submitted to address the concerns which have been raised by the League Local Flood Authority and Yorkshire Water. They've both been reconsulted and comments are awaited. So the recommendation on that basis is to delegate grant consent subject to a satisfactory drainage and housing mix justification. So if I just go back to the other issues that have been raised, there is no objection from LCC Highways and in relation to an additional crossing facility, that's not something that they have suggested as something that would be necessary and reasonable in relation to this application. The amenity issues are also addressed in the report. They have all been measured, the distances from the existing properties to the proposed properties, and they comply with the separation distances set out in the design principles SPD. In relation to the new local plan, you're quite right, we would have to make an assessment of the application based on the current development plan, which is the Pendle 4th edition local plan. So we would be making the decision on that basis this evening, albeit we have to take into consideration material considerations, and one of them is that there has been an application here for 34 dwellings, which has been approved. It is still extant, so they've made a technical start on the application for 34 houses, and they could continue to build out that scheme if they wish in its previous form. So I would say to kind of summarise everything, the officer is requesting that delegate grant consent is given to the Assistant Director of Planning, and it would be subject to receiving satisfactory feedback from the Lead Local Flood Authority and an amended housing mix to cover the affordable housing issue that's been raised. I would say if members intend to refuse the application, there is a significant risk of cost because of the previous permission, so it would be something that would have to be referred to Development Management Committee for determination.
Aye, just from a Salford Parish Council perspective, can't really add much to what has been said, because everything that Salford Parish Council have actually said, which is within this document, concurs with everything else that has actually been said. Going back to the original planning application, which is many, many years ago, the climate's changed, and you're right about the new Pendle plan, if you will. I just think it's, having read up quite a lot of what has been said, I think, as with any plan, you can set the narrative ultimately to get the end result that you want, which is particularly unfair because it then precludes any conversation or anything that has been said by members of the public, you know, particularly residents that are local to that area who know they live it daily, they breathe it daily. And the other obvious consequence is the fact that it's in Salford, albeit it's outside the settlement boundary. However, the minute you build on that field, Salford and Nearby are connected.
Correct.
So the very last item on this agenda, which is the renaming of things, you may as well add it to that and decide what to do, because the two will become one. And I understand towns, villages evolve over time. However, we need to protect as well.
Thank you. We've got Councillor Wick next, and then Brian.
Thank you, Chairman. I have some questions, really. Well, a comment for a start. Somebody pointed out that, you know, it's described as Park Avenue, which is ridiculous. It is Abbey Road, Salford. And the memory of Lancashire County Council in saying there haven't been any road traffic collisions in the last 5 years. There have been fatalities at this very point over a longer time scale, pedestrian fatalities, and at the very point where you come out of Abbey, and a lot of local people remember those deaths, and there has been a suggestion that if the development went ahead, that actually the street names honour the names of the people who have died on that road. So it's not correct to say that there haven't been any road traffic collisions. It's just you need to look at a longer time scale to understand how dangerous that bit of road is. Chairman, it's been said that the previous planning permission has been implemented. Well, although there's been a bit of digging which looked more like site investigations than anything else, there's no substantive start being made on the permission for 34, and I would argue that the previous application has lapsed. It is 10 years, it's a decade since that application was made, and it was turned down by the West Craven Area Committee. When it went to the Development Management Committee, myself and the then chairman of the Development Management Committee, the late Councillor Ken Hartley, both opposed its approval. It was passed by councillors from other parties, and became the substantive application then. But it has never been implemented, and it's 4 years since the last amended plans were put in. So I would challenge as to whether there is an extant permission. But in any event, I think the footprint of this current application is different to the approval for the previous application. So if the footprint is different, then it's a different application. And notwithstanding whether there was an existing permission that has been implemented, there is the new local plan, which means there are different policies, and that is a break, and it can be considered as an entirely new application. So I think, Chairman, there are concerns about road safety which remain, and from a county council point of view, as well as the highway issues, there are concerns about the drainage, which is shared by Yorkshire Water. I think, Chair, there is a further concern that's been raised by both Catherine and Wendy about the layout, and this is a legitimate material consideration for the committee, because they both refer to gable ends being in very close proximity to their properties. In the report it does say that there's 30 metres in between properties, but I can see out of the corner of my eye Catherine shaking her head vigorously to that. So I think another thing that the committee should be considering is to whether the design and layout is adequate as well. So I think there are lots of reasons, excuse me, there are lots of reasons why the committee could question this application, and I think given my previous opposition and the committee's previous opposition, I would certainly be urging the committee to go down that road.
Thank you. Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to speak up because also I've raised with Phoebe, and I do understand the balance that we have to have between, you know, planning and money and everything else, but, you know, I've sat through numerous meetings where we've had differences in planning. I've never heard so many passionate residents in such opposition against something. I really think that our representatives for the area, we really need to sit and listen. You know, everything to do with, you know, the pharmacy and the doctors, they're already stretched to the limit. What is this? Never mind the drainage, the lack of enjoyment. People live around here because they think it's beautiful and it's rural. If we're going to be living in a concrete jungle due to a planning application, I just think it's something, I really think it's, you know, that we really take into consideration our constituents' opinions on this.
Councillor Whittaker.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think, to be quite honest, I've quite a few concerns about this proposed development. So I'll just keep it quite quick, because also it has already been said, but the issue with clay underneath the ground, I have fields at all where it does that, it is clay underneath, and when it rains, it floods really quickly, and it takes a long time to drain. So much so, if the sheep have got wet feet, it's not wet. So I can't see my fields being any different to this one. So, and obviously with the photograph that the lady's been passing around shows the water going across the field from, I'm assuming, the spring, I'm assuming. So, obviously to me that alarm bells ring, because that is not just going to go away, it's potentially risking the new development and existing development. So, risking to all properties. Another big concern I have, and I've been on that road a lot and gone down it and that, is the access onto the road. And the number of 28 houses, so the number of cars that are going to be there, it doesn't matter. Some might turn right and go to A, a lot might turn left. And with the bus route going over there, which is problematic in its own without the extra traffic. And again, going on to the council artist comments, the passion with the residents that I spoke to and people and the constructive argument against the scheme is quite admirable, I think, and so right. So basically, that's all I want to say. I've got serious concerns about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Church.
Thank you, Chair. Apart from reflecting the views of pretty much everybody I've heard so far, the one thing that struck a little bell with my memory is the fact that this would effectively turn Avery and Salford into a single unit. Now, it's probably not a year since, although at my age these things stretch, we had a similar problem with the development that might join Avery and Suff. That was thrown back at us because they managed to find a little giddle somewhere between the two that meant they were separated. So I think we should fight against this very strongly. We're going to end up with just not a series of pleasant small towns and villages, but quite simply a daisy chain of a whole load of little communities all tied together. So we should resist on that ground alone.
Absolutely, and the local plan does support that. Councillor Lance?
I also am surprised that they can bring this up when it's outside the settlement area and bring the two together. I did ask about this at the planning training because I thought that we were totally against bringing these towns together. Is that not part of the local plan to keep them separate? And also, I'm surprised that people haven't mentioned these charging sewers. It is mentioned in the report because probably when this was brought up in 2016, we didn't have that problem. And surely this is going to make that worse. If they're going to add more drains into there.
Councillor Amanda, do you want to come in? Are you just the only one?
No, I'm pretty much in agreement with everyone else. I mean, I don't understand all planning stuff, but I always thought, you can't keep joining up towns and keeps coming up and you're just thinking, it's green spaces again. Everyone lives there, I just fully agree with them. So,
thank you. So our planning officer Laura has stated that if we turn this down tonight, it will be referred to DM.
Yeah, that's right.
Which, I think there's consensus in the room that this should be turned down. Since no one's put a motion forward, I'd like to do so from the chair. And I think the reasons for refusal would be the design and layout with reference to the existing properties and the gable ends. I think there's a...
Sorry, Jen, in relation to residential amenity of the properties or in terms of the design of them?
Councillor Whip, you mentioned this one.
Well, I think the layout is the reference to the residential amenity of the existing residents. In terms of the design, I mean, the brackets is together in my mind, but it was the residential amenities and nearby residents.
The second one, biodiversity. I don't think it adequately addresses the nature of this, and I think the ecological appraisal doesn't take into account how valuable these kind of springs are to local wildlife. I'll slow down some cash. Thirdly, highway safety. Now the report only says no accidents in the last 5 years. Sorry, you're not allowed to play straight to Brian. Yeah, highway safety, there's no adequate provision for the crossing of people from the pedestrian, from the public right of way to the proposed pavement. I'll just finish up. And then, fourthly, the local policies on outer settlement development. And I think there was a second policy, but I might be wrong.
Chairman, I think your decision at the last meeting is relevant.
Yeah, contrary to policies SB02, DM09, DM26 of the adopted Pendle Local Plan 4th edition. I think they should cover it. Which the application to the south side of the road was turned down on the basis of those policies. Which I see no material reason why this application should be different. The only measurable difference is the extant application, which was technically started, but not really. I mean, I don't believe it has, to be honest, and I would refute that as Councillor Witt does. The fifth one, drainage. I think we haven't got sufficient before us. We haven't received responses from the Lead Local Flood Authority or Yorkshire Water. And the inadequacy of the main sewerage network from that side in terms of that surcharging. And finally the access arrangements, which Councillor Whittaker referred to there. So for those reasons, I move that we refuse this application. I'll then open the floor up again. I need a second for a start, and then Councillor Bryan, you wanted to come back in.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to second that motion and also point out that there have been 3 accidents since the end of last year, including a lamppost wall and an overturned car. I just feel like there's so much traffic in that area already. Those are accidents that happened since the back end of last year, and I'd like to just add that into the motions for refusal, please, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah. I think just a note then on the decision that there is accidents that aren't reflected in the report from Lancashire County Council. Okay. Would anyone else like to discuss this before we go to a vote?
Can I just say, in relation to the extant permission, the applicant had made a start on one of the garage plots for the original layout for 34 units, and that is a technical start, so that's the reason that they could carry on with the application that they've already had approved.
So what have you actually done?
The valuations. So in order to make a technical start, they could do some engineering work, so that the foundations would count as that, or some drainage works. So they've put in the foundations for one of the garage plots, and that is the technical start.
Can I just ask a question to one of the speakers, Jasmine Lowry? Yeah, I mean, since you're representing a lot of residents, could you confirm
There's
this
nothing in
technical
that
start?
field at all.
About Yasmin?
There is not. I've got photos now of the field that I've took.
And in fairness, I will ask the agent as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a trench dug about 2 years ago. It was concreted, it was filled in. We've got pictures, we've got records of it. It was towards the, what was it there? Western boundary, near the opposite buildings.
I'm sorry, digging a trench and concrete isn't it?
It's a technical start. In planning law, that's
Perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, I've seen the trend.
That sounds like construction waste disposal to me. So I won't say any further. Look, our decision here tonight will be referred to DM. I just want on this list to include everything that we are concerned about, so go to that committee. I think it's time to go to the vote on this.
Yes.
So all those in favour of our motion to refuse?
Oh.
Brian? Yeah. All those against? Oh, that was unanimous. Yeah. Thank you. So that's all on that planning application there. There are 2 more planning applications, and we have got the rest of the agenda to go through tonight. If you don't want to sit through that, there is an opportunity to do that. Could anyone put some lights on at the end?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Charlie. Thank you very much. So we'll take the first application on the list, which is the erection of a rear dormer extension at 88 Rainhill Road, Barnholdswick. We do have a speaker on this, James Waite, and I'll invite you to speak now. You have up to 5 minutes.
Basically, like in May's meeting, it was read out from the planning officer that basically it would have a detrimental effect on my neighbours, shadowing or shadowing and stuff like that. It was read out for a group, whereas in the actual planning refusal issue, it states in normal situations that does happen. However, because of our luckiness in our sort of amount of area we've got, there is no detrimental factor or shadowing and such like. Also, the negative effect on Valley Road, there really is no vision of my property whatsoever. We are very, very fortunate how the land lies. We've planted 60 hedges, which gives a screen for us and also the adjoining properties. Before putting in for planning, I consulted all my neighbours. Vince, 90-year-old chap, he said to go for it, you've got a little family, doing really well. Joanne, who lives on Valley Road, I said, crack on, with no concerns whatsoever. The next to my right is a terrace house, rented property. I get on well with her, we've done a few jobs for her to keep the property tidy. She had no voice concerns. We're not doing it to profitise through money or anything. We're doing it because children stay in houses a lot longer than what we used to. I was fortunate, I moved out at 19. That doesn't happen now. So what this is to generate is essentially 1 extra bedroom. We are putting 2 in, but our house is full, so our living room became a bedroom. So now it's going to be 4 bedrooms upstairs and generate that second living room downstairs, which is vital as children get older. They don't want to sit with mum and dad and such like. I just want to put my point across on that, and that's it really. It's everything we're just trying to do as well as we can. So, yeah.
Thank you very much for coming and speaking on this application. Just to say, I mean, you know, I'm 27. I've still got a room at my parents' house, so I'm fully aware of that circumstance. And, yeah, I think, you know, we as councillors have recognised that there is a change in need in housing provision. And, I mean, we've stated on numerous occasions we're not happy with our current extensions policy. A lot of that is tied up with the national framework that doesn't allow us to do some changes that we'd like to see. And we do feel strongly that houses should be able to be adapted to provide for the needs of people now. So on that note, Laura, could I invite you in to introduce the application, give us an update on anything coming out of the last meeting, and just if there's anything you'd like to address from the speaker.
Okay, thank you, Chair. The application is for the erection of an extension to an existing grey dormer. Members will no doubt be familiar with the application site, and we did discuss it at the last committee meeting. Since then, the applicant has been given the opportunity to revise their plans, and they have submitted some amended plans which reduce the ridge of the extension from the main height of the house. So it's not quite as high as the main ridge. Just in relation to comments about neighbouring community, I understand that in the last month's meeting, the main focus was on the design of it and the impact which it would have on the surrounding character and appearance, and that again is the recommendation this evening. The report sets out that there wouldn't be a neighbouring amenity issue, and just to note that whether or not the neighbours agree is not a material planning consideration. We have to consider neighbouring amenity in any case, and in this case we have. You can see on page 4 the officer has set out the relationship with all of the neighbouring properties. Continuing on to page 5, and we don't feel that it would have an unacceptable impact on the neighbouring properties. So it's purely a design case.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. Councillor?
If I could just contribute, Chair. With the previous hat on, this came before me as a delegated decision to refuse, which I declined to sign that off and made it come to committee. I fully agree with the applicant in that you can't see it from Valley Road because of the way that it's laid out and the space. It has no impact on the adjacent properties. You can't see it off Raynor Road, or you can just see a little bit of the existing dormer from Raynor Road. But, you know, to all intents and purposes, it has no impact on anybody else whatsoever. And my view is that it ought to be approved, but I don't have that power. So I hope the committee will be sympathetic.
You can certainly.
Oh, can I? Yeah, I will then therefore propose that the application is approved.
Thank you. Does that have a second? Councillor Church.
I'll second. Thank you. We've seen this philosophy of growing upward. To great effect in the I would say the more urban end of the borough. It's worked extremely well. It's provided more and more beds, without taking out a blade of grass from anyone. And we should lean in favour of this in principle as much as we possibly can within the remit of the law. And in this case, I feel exactly the same as all the previous ones.
Thank you very much. Is there any more speakers on this one? No. Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour, please. That's unanimous. Thank you. And then, so the final planning application we've got tonight is the erection of 10 number B2 to B8 industrial units with associated parking at land to the south of Jackdaw Road, Barnoldswick. And this is recommended for delegate grant consent. I've got no speakers listed on this one. So Laura, I'll give it straight to you if you'd like to introduce this.
Thank you, Chair. As we set out, the application is a major development, which is why it's being brought to committee for determination. It's for the erection of 10 industrial units in an existing industrial area, and in fact the site is allocated in the local plan 4th edition for just this type of development for a B2 and B8 use. The development is laid out in 2 rows, and it would have a U-shape perimeter road which would serve the buildings. They're all single storey in height, and we have got a full design of them. One of the things which I am requesting is delegated grant consent. You'll see in the report on page 13. I was waiting information on the noise assessment and on trees. I can give an update to members on that. You'll see in the update report which was circulated this afternoon, we have had a tree survey and our cultural impact assessment provided. and a response from the Environmental Health Officer on the noise impact assessment. The applicant has also submitted further details on drainage, which is now with the Lead Local Authority for their comments. So my recommendation would be that, subject to the objection being lifted from the Lead Local Authority, we could impose conditions and I'm asking if members would delegate grant consent to the head of service so that this application could be approved.
Thank you very much. Do you have any speakers on this, please? Right. I mean, I personally am happy to move that we go with the officer recommendations in this case. Thank you, Susan. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. So item B on planning applications. And this is on planning reforms. The determination of planning applications and changes to scheme of delegation. Now, on the 30th of September, new regulations will come into force on how planning applications will be determined. And there is a report submitted in the member packs on this. Laura, do you feel comfortable to explain this one?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, Chair. As you set out, there is a national change to the way that planning committees operate, with the intention of trying to simplify the process and have a more level playing field across the whole country, so that the idea being, if an application was submitted in any planning authority across the country, it would be treated in much the same way. The report goes into detail about the different regulations which will come into effect. It says on the 30th of September we have had a further update from central government last week to say this may be delayed into October, but it is imminent, so we need to discuss it and explain what the implications would be. How things would work, supposing these regulations come in, applications would be split up, so there would be Schedule 1 applications and Schedule 2 applications. Schedule 1 applications wouldn't go to planning committee and couldn't be called in by members. Schedule 2 applications would ordinarily go to planning committee for determination. I think that is the major change. You'll see at paragraph 3.9, the regulations would also limit the size of the committee to a maximum of 13 members, which would have implications for the Nelson Committee, which has 14 councillors currently. The intention is that the final regulations have yet to be issued, and the detail of how the council would bring these regulations into effect would still need some development. So there will be some work carried out over the summer on the scheme of delegation and on the specifics of how this would all work. And the council meeting, the full council, which is due to take place on the 1st of October, would determine the scheme of delegation relating to Pendle. Hopefully that explains things.
Thank you very much. So I think, from my point of view, this flies in the face of everything we do as an area committee. I mean, fundamentally, as a lived-down council, I believe that decisions should be made by the people affected by them, and we in Pendle have a fundamentally very good system of doing that by these area committees. I mean, we're fairly unique in Pendle for having the area committees decide planning applications. You know, this system that we have here and that the members of the public have engaged tonight is something that, you know, we've developed locally and turned, I think, into a success that allows applications like what we've just seen, where officers might not agree, and you know, obviously there is always a tilted balance that officers need to apply in terms of design. You can't always have it, you know, A or B. It's a very grey area. And I think having that local input, that local knowledge, especially with the highway safety concerns that we've seen that Lancashire County Council didn't appropriately respect, that this source of local input is incredibly important. And this is seeking to just completely undermine that process. And I think it's, you know, terrible that the Labour government is imposing this new way of working that is completely incompatible with our area committee system. It's assuming a central planning authority that covers the entire council region, which with LGR we're going to have a unitary council, which would mean that by default an area, you know, a council the size of, you know, it could even be, you know, from here to the end of River Valley, if there's 3 councils in Lancashire LGR. A committee of 12 councillors from there could be no councillor from the area on that committee making those planning decisions. And that's if that decision is even made by councillors, because it's saying in Schedule 1 that those decisions will be made entirely by officers. So this is, to me, completely unacceptable. But however, there's no recourse now. The government's done its done its I've forgotten the word. Consultation. Thank you very much. And there's no recourse for us to respond, is there?
No, sorry, it's to note these changes.
Thank you. Councillor?
I fully agree with what you're saying. The plan application that you've just considered for a dormer extension at Raynell Road wouldn't have seen the light of day. It would have been turned down by officers, and there would be no opportunity for any involvement by councillors. And although these draconian changes it took for the national delegation scheme are supposedly to make plan applications easier, planning approvals easier to get. Actually, locally, it will work in the other way, because local councillors have, on a number of occasions, found the wriggle room to allow things which would have been just dismissed out of hand according to the policies. And I can think of a number of dwellings that have been built, use of property or dormers that have been allowed, which they won't come to committee. There'll be a black and white decision. Does it fit with policy? Does it not? And the decision will be on that basis. The second part of this, in terms of the Schedule 2, the bigger applications, will only come to a committee if they are deemed to be economic, social, or environmental issues, significant environmental, social, or economic issues that need to be considered. So the likelihood is that there will be very, very little development management by any area committees, and as you say, Chair, with the new unitary authorities. But don't forget the biggest one is that one put forward by Reform, who wants a council that stretches from here right across to Southport and would have like 900,000 residents. Well, a planning committee of 12 people, what sort of considerations are there going to be? Are they going to be meeting in Erie and looking at an application for land off area of sort of, no they're not. Taken together, it's a denial of democracy and it's anathema to people who've actually championed a local input and letting residents have a say on what actually happens.
Thank you.
Totally agree, Dave. Where does that leave local plans? Not local plans, sorry, neighbourhood plans. What does that mean for, such as Kelvin and Suffolk who've got a neighbourhood plan?
Yeah.
Does that mean it's just a quick...
My understanding is that the neighbourhood plans still form part of the policy framework that the application is determined by, and it sort of works as a hierarchy, so national, local, then neighbourhood plans in that sort of sequence.
But where's the communication? And by that what I mean is we're very lucky that, obviously you get a planning application goes in and immediately, ka-ching, Pendle Council let you know, you can see the whole mechanism, you can see everything going on. But how is that going to work if it's just going to go to sort of men in white coats kind of thing?
So I'll bring you in after the discussion. Castle Land.
If we no longer have the Borough Council, where's the local plan going to come from?
Did someone else indicate? No, I must have imagined that. So the local plan, that's a bit of an awkward one. So the government has insisted that Pendle needs to start work on its next local plan, even though we've just done one. That work will be interrupted by LGR. But they insist that we go ahead with that. And that work would then be taken up by the new authority, just as like a transitional. And it would be, all the combined borough authorities' local plans will be combined into the new local plan that takes place. We think that's a nonsense. We've responded to the government's consultation that that's a nonsense. There's no lining up with the SDPs and the local planning, it seems that they just sort of dismiss, our sort of situation in LGR, which again was forced on them almost by the government. So it's the two hands not talking to each other. They responded to that consultation, just start planning anyway. Laura, do you want to do you know anything about the neighbourhood plans where they fit?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think it is correct to say that the neighbourhood plans would still remain part of the development plan. So as we have in different parts of Pendle, there are neighbourhood plans and they would still form part of the statutory determination of planning applications. In terms of the logistics of how an application will be advertised and people will comment on it, my understanding is that would be exactly the same as is currently the case. People would still be able to comment on planning applications. It is just the mechanism to determine them at planning committee, which is to change.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It just detracts from being able to sit in a room like this and have a face-to-face conversation, because we're dealing with people who could be miles and miles away, who won't have any input or connection to whatever it is that's being discussed.
Yeah,
It's very black and white.
Absolutely, and following from that, I've seen a concerning change in how the time framework's done, where central government sets what the expectations are on planning commissions, just sort of overriding local plans. So although they're insisting that we do these local plans, a lot of the choices that we'd like to make locally are already decided for us by central government. So a lot of these things that we're doing, this good work that we're doing in local plans and neighbourhood plans, is just being overridden by the carte blanche, national framework. which takes away that local decision making, which obviously is reflective of the local conditions and environment and social, you know, the 3 pillars of sustainability, which is what that was referring to. And, you know, I just don't see how a centralised national government can determine what those 3 pillars look like for a local area. I mean, you know, in Pendle, our conditions are going to be very different than those in the centre of Manchester. Yeah. So, would anyone else like to come in on this? It is just a note, unfortunately. But, I mean, I hope Robbie, who's our local government reporter tonight, can relay our concerns to the national press. No pressure. Thank you. Yeah.
If we are, if our the extent of our power tonight is to know this, then we should say noted, but with an exclamation mark.
Thank you very much. Last thing on last thing on planning matters, we've got the appeals, which we've got a notification of one new appeal, which is appeal against condition 3 of grant of planning permission for replacement of West Craven of windows to the alteration of an existing door to add a window to front elevation at 2A Park Road, Bonolswood. So that appeal has been lodged, and there's no decision been made there yet.
No, it's in the very early stage.
Yeah. Does anyone want to speak on this? No, then thank you. Item 6 then, enforcement action. Item 6, yeah. I'll open the floor to this one then. So I'll go page by page. So on page 1, we've got the north and south block of wall stories either. So they've submitted the Environment Agency application. Has there been any change on that front, or is it still waiting?
So the application is obviously a link with the developer. Submitted the application to the Environment Agency at the start of the year, and we were told when it was waiting the outcome of that decision, and it was meant to be imminent. Unfortunately, we were trying to get some further news on that before this meeting, but haven't been able to get the final decision. But it's expected at any time.
Okay, so we'll hope for that for the next meeting. Number 3 and number 4, and that's all the rest of these are the same area. But the land at the junction with Greenfield Lane, Gisborne Road, and also the land to the west of Rodden, New Rodden Lane. These are, Councillor, that you've got a good understanding of this.
Chairman, I just wanted to ask a question in terms of the land off Greenfield Lane, which is now Lane Ends Close. And the report that the committee has got sets out the numbers of times that the developers have been taken to court, both as a company and as individual directors. And up until the beginning of this month, the total of fines, costs and victim surcharges added up to £29,030. There was a further court date on 1st of June, which I'm sure our officers can tell us what fines, surcharges and costs were awarded at that meeting. The significant issue there is the failure of the developers to put in a path along between the new development and Gisborne Road, and at the moment part of the land that ought to be a footpath is fenced off. The developers are showing no interest at all in getting forward with this. It's complicated to some extent by the fact that Lancashire County Council planning decision donkeys years ago for the sewage works required United Utilities to do some work. Having said that, that doesn't preclude the developer from doing what the approved plan requires them to do. So, I mean, there's some other stuff involved with it as well, but that's the main problem for residents and members of the public, because the end of Greenfield Lane, as you come towards Gisborne Road, is dangerous for pedestrians. We've got very big vehicles going over to the sewage works, going to local businesses, and the conflict that narrow section of road is not acceptable. Previously, the area committee has asked to meet with the county council, and we did meet with United Utilities, and the United Utilities information has been passed on to the developers without any impact. So, Chairman, two questions. First question is, what penalties were imposed on the 1st of June? And secondly, given the fact that despite these mounting costs, the developer are showing no move towards actually putting this path in, what further action can Pendle Council take to ensure that that work is done? Can it be done in default? Can the county council do the work, or insist that the work is done as part of the Section 278 agreement? You know, what is the way forward? Because I suspect the developers will continue to stick the proverbial fingers up at Pendle Council as the planning authority.
Thank you. It's my understanding that United Utilities have looked into the land ownership in question. Could you explain to the committee what the outcome of that was, just so we know what to speak?
Well, the United Utilities, their land holding should have passed on to the county council as I forget what the term is. I think it's dedicated for highway use. But having gone into great detail, it doesn't actually affect the responsibility of the developer to put the pavement in. It could have been a better solution had that land been used, but nevertheless, the developer could implement what they said they were going to do as part of the plan application, irrespective of the UU land. I think the county council ought to be taking action because the whole area is a mess. And whether that should be through the planning process or through the county council acting as a highway authority, neither course seems to be having any impact.
Thank you. Yeah. Do we have the answers to those questions?
Through the chair, I think definitely secondly more complex than what we can provide answer for now, but take that away and come back on the next actions that can be taken to try and resolve the issue for the people living in the area. Answer to the first question regarding the court case that was on the 1st of June. We don't have the information broken down to victim surcharge and the total as requested, but that will be on the next committee. I am sorry, you may go on. Thank you.
I'll just read what she said. So it went to this is the Greenfield Lane. Yeah. It went to Burnham Magistrates Court on Monday 1st of June. No one attended. This is the 5th time Langdale have been prosecuted and the 4th time for Joe Hindle, director. They were both fined £10,000 and ordered to pay costs of £350 and a victim surcharge of £4,000, a total of £14,350 each.
total fines to Langdale Homes Limited, 19,594 in fines, 2,450 in costs, and 7,276 victim surcharge. That's a total of 29,320. Joe Hindle was fined 16,007. Oh, this is the total for Joe Hindle. 16,760 in fines, 2,050 costs, and 6,704 victim surcharge. A total of 25,514 pounds.
Surely it would be just more cost effective for somebody, either Lancashire County Council or whoever,
Just to do it.
set up a man who'll do the job and then get the money off them by taking them through the courts again. It's just a waste of taxpayers' money.
Well, the surcharges that are recovered through the fines pay for the council's costs in this matter.
But what I mean is clearly they've got more money than sense. Have they not? So why would you?
Yeah, I mean the fact that they're doing nothing after that, total, is just unbelievable. I mean that's more money than ever. Yeah.
So clearly they're not bothered.
Yeah. So I think my proposal would be, one meeting.
I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. My proposal would be we refer this matter to the executive and ask for a report to be sent there on what actions we can take or what actions the county council should take. I mean, if it's something the county council should do, is that something we could just refer officer to officer for the time being? We have to go to the executive. We'll have a report to executive either way, and then if we can sort anything out in the back channel with the county council in the meantime, I think that would be beneficial. Yeah, because I mean it's just been going on too long. There's new allotments there. There's a lot. All the residents have moved in. I mean, it's time that this was sorted out, and it's just ridiculous. It's still ongoing. So yeah. So do I have a seconder for that to refer this to the executive? Thank you, Councillor Hartley. All those in favour? Brilliant. Is there anything else on enforcement action? No? Thank you. We'll move on then. The next item is the area committee budget. Now on this, at the last meeting we moved to provision £2,000 towards the footpath scheme at Church School Bonalswick. There was just a bit of confusion about where that comes from out of the area committee's capital budget. And we need to reallocate some money towards that project. My proposal is that in the short term, we provision that from the schedule number 47, which is the premises improvements grants, which has £6,000. So to buy £2,000 from that £6,000 to this scheme. On the proviso, now the officer in charge of this pot always says every year that he's going to get that money spent up, and I'd love to believe him, but I don't think I can remember a year where he has actually managed to do that. But just in case he does manage to look like he's going to spend it up, I think there's a proviso in there that should an application be successful, that we look to rearrange money in the other pots to refill it back up to £6,000 so we don't detriment any applicable businesses who could apply later on. So £2,000 there for now, and look to rearrange the budget again in the future so should things change. Is that agreeable with everyone? Yeah. Could you second that, please? Second that, and all those in favour? Thank you very much, that's unanimous. Is there anything else we need to do on this? No. So otherwise we're just noting that Item 8 then, representatives on outside bodies. We've got the Avon Salterford Internal Drainage Board, which we need 3 councillors to be on. Currently that's myself, Councillor Hartley and Councillor Land. Are we all happy to continue that? Yeah? And then there's also an ask, do we want to reappoint Councillor Chris Church as the trustee for Bradford Mill Engine Museum?
Can I just say, when the agenda was put together, I didn't realise that actually this time last year, Councillor Chris Church was reappointed the trustee for a term of 3 years. So that would take it up to 2028. So I was happy for that to continue.
Happy to reaffirm that we're still one.
If I live that long, I'll take it.
Yeah. Item 9 then is drainage issue at allotments Greenfield Lane. This is where United Utilities has done some work on the main sewer into the sewage treatment works. Is it to the, I'll say just downhill of the allotments at Greenfield. And since that work's happened, those allotments have had an increased level of water, standing water on the allotments. It's a very low-lying spot. But previously the land did drain better than it does now. So somewhere along the lines of that work being carried out by United Utilities, the drainage to those allotments has got worse. There is a site visit later this week with myself, Bonoswood Town Council, and Pendle Council's engineers. So I think this item is just a bit too premature ahead of that meeting. So are we happy to note this tonight? Yeah. Alright, thank you very much. Item 10 then is private placed impact funds. So we've got an update tonight on private placed impact funds. I can't read that. That's on my Hey, that's a bit better. Yeah, so it was previously requested that we have an update of this to the committee on what's happening. I haven't been filled in, I'm afraid. I've had other matters. Would anyone like to just introduce?
I will just say that since I circulated the first 3 updates this afternoon, I was going to send another update to replace one of the updates. So the one that is on its own should replace the one that's stapled together, so we've all got a stapled copy. But anyway,
That's on.
This is far too small for me, but I asked for it to come into committee then because we've had things taken off, such as benches. We've had things not applied for, such as the Ely Town Council, and we have had an update on that about the match funding. And so I just wondered where we were when we were actually putting forward for this. So we've still got our project, but I noticed the drainage has been withdrawn to the football pitches now, because that's being done by Pendle Council, and then we've had, there's another one added on to here. Sorry, did you want to come in?
Not now, carry on.
Then there's another added in about they want to put a footpath round. So it's changed substantially since we started, and I thought we needed to find out where we are and what we're going forward with, because I don't suppose with the delay we've had with the MP and the government, etc., that they've given us any extra time to sort this out in.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. I've got Councillor Whip.
Thank you, Chairman. I think in terms of the Avey Memorial Park, that the intention was always to provide an improved footpath around the area so that dog walkers and the like could use it. And the drainage was a sort of shorthand that fitted in the box rather than the full sort of explanation which is in the box here. To me, the writing is too small. So, as I understand it, looking at this, the proposal is, because none of this is for the area to committee to determine, it will be the executive or the leader and deputy leader of the council. So, as I understand it, there's a recognition that the work at Avey Memorial Park would include the path and draining the path, which I think is a good do. There was some funding previously provided by the area committee to do some of that work, which I think went to Pendle Council Parish Council. So I don't know whether that can be thrown into the mix or not, or whether it's been utilised elsewhere. So that's that bit of it. As I understand it, the Town Council has said that they don't want to do the Rushden Avenue play area, the station hotel toilets, or the pavilion refurbishment at Hilltop Recreation Ground. And that means that there's £34,000 or thereabouts, which can be reallocated to other projects. So clearly that's going to be something for the executive to look at. And then at the bottom bit it says Saltworth Parish Council are interested in the flagpole, which I think we've known previously that the Parish Council were interested in the flagpole. My understanding is that there are some volunteers who will be more than happy to arrange the erection and so forth of the flags. So, just a personal opinion, I do hope that that bit of the project will go ahead and the Saltworth War Memorial area will be suitably enhanced. So that's my understanding of the situation, Chairman. But the headline is that all the accusations of Pendle Council have bent the rules and not done this properly have been absolutely skewered by the government department responsible writing to Pendle Council saying you've done everything correctly, crack on lads.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I mean, it's certainly the case that the last executive, it was announced that the government do agree that everything was done right by Pendlebury Council's officers in determining what points are allocated to which schemes and determining which how the funding is allocated across the board. And it's important to remember there's £3 million worth of projects with only £1.5 million of funding. So unfortunately, the way the government's done this, there are always going to be projects that missed out. And we've tried to do it as fairly as possible by doing it on the basis of townships and the surrounding hinterland. And I hope that that's accepted going forward by all the parties involved. Do you want to?
Two things, please, Chair. First of all, with regard to the flagpole at Saltworth, obviously, council don't want to take responsibility for putting flags up, taking them down. Just to put a note in the sand that at no point has any volunteers actually come anywhere near the council to say that they're willing to look after it.
I can respond to that one. We were approached as the West Craven Area Committee by volunteers from the Royal British Legion who expressed that they would like to erect and take down
that's never been communicated
Such as
to
maybe
the parish council. Because I think we potentially would have had a different attitude had we known that.
I'm sorry for that miscommunication.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that was a long time ago now, because this has progressed quite slowly.
Yeah.
But this was made from a place of there's people who aspire to see that in town.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, point taken on the ongoing maintenance, but I think there will be provision in the new authority from LGR to look after that. I think. So, I mean, on that basis, I'm happy that we just, I think, while noting this, pass that up that we're still interested.
Can I just pass a comment again about the supply that David's already alluded to, just because of what you said, Susan, about the drainage. The drainage hasn't been withdrawn, the drainage has actually taken place. I think there's still a few bits and bobs to do, but it's coming under budget, and I think there's about £16,000 going begging, which is why there is now a new proposal to do the footpath. And with regards to what David said, you're absolutely right. Pendle Council were awarded a grant via this committee, £1,375, and we still have it.
Yeah, just a quick one. Obviously, being a new councillor, this is the first time I've had any information on this project. And obviously, a lot of information taken as what's been discussed around the table tonight, and you may not fully understand it. But the principle is like, when I studied it, and if I have any questions on it, who's the point of contact I can phone up or talk to and say, what's this going on, or why is this allocated there? Or do I have to look back in records as to why we're allocated in the first place?
So that is an officer, Brian Gifford. Brian Gifford is the lead officer in this at PVC. He did most of the work in determining the points allocations of the various projects submitted. So he developed the framework in line with the guidance from government in how these projects were determined, their eligibility, etc.
Right, sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, he's the first part of contact there.
Right, so if I have any questions, it's Brian Gifford that I've got to get in touch with you to clarify any
Should be able to find
questions.
it right now.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So just on the EV applications then, Amanda, do you want to comment?
I'll comment definitely on the first lot because it relies a lot on match funding. 12,000 is allocated towards repairs for all the parks, which instantly, only about a couple of weeks ago, we've had to replace something out of that. We've managed to do the retaking smaller areas and that, but we couldn't have done the match funding with the park, so that's why we didn't go for that one. Because that's all the park money gone then, for all the parks, and we've got 6-7 parks. So the other two were the station hotel toilets. Well, if we'd had them done with no CCTV, we know from how toilets are near the station, how damaged they've been, and it's just continuously spending out taxpayers' money to fix them over and over again. But since we've got CCTV there, we've had a lot less damage with the new locks on the doors, with the cars, it's been a lot better. So, I mean, we've sent statements out about why that one. We're waiting for the applications to come through for the next round and see how it goes with that one. For the embankment and the, I can't remember all the proposals for the next stage, and that's what I'm not going to know about that part. So,
I mean, the issue at the moment is the money's there and it needs to be applied for.
well, it's sure that that's down to receiving an application for the next stage of the projects.
I think Brian Gifford has said that they've not had any update from Ely Town Council about their intentions for putting in applications for their stage 2 project.
We've not received anything through as far as I'm aware of at any meetings we've had.
I think
So I'll definitely we've not, there's not been anything discussed about the second phase.
Councillor Land.
So, just a question that if these trench one or whatever we call it have now been withdrawn by the Town Council, could some of that money be reallocated to their stage 2? Which would mean that they wouldn't need so much match funding for their stage 2, like for the embankment.
Yeah, so that is to be discussed by the executive, I've been informed.
Right.
Yeah, so that's still an open question.
Right, well, it was just a question as to, that's why I asked for this update, as to where these monies would be reallocated and whether it could go still towards EV.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't want to be confrontational, Councillor Member.
No.
But I mean, from my perspective as a double act from Van Oswald Town Council, I mean, we've certainly put in match funding and we see it as a valuable investment in the assets in the town.
I'm not denying some match funding. There was another project on there that got match funding, but for the park in particular, for the resurfacing in the park, it was for 12,000. That was the reserve to pay for repairs for the other parks. So we just couldn't afford to use all that money. And then instantly after, we had some repairs that's come out of that budget, and replaced some equipment on there. So if we used all that just for the resurfacing, there's been nothing left to fix anything else on the park. So
can I ask a question about expectations of match funding and what it was? And I'm only saying that from the perspective of the amount that Salford has put in. We weren't under any distinct impression that you had to provide 50%, 20%, 30% or whatever. It was a number, it was a gesture, if you know what I mean. So my question would be, if we know that there is an existing pot, and again, I'm sorry, Amanda, for EAB in phase 2, and there is a balance from phase 1 that's been sort of put sidelined, would there be a possibility for EAB to resubmit in its entirety?
I mean, that's still a subject that the executives can discuss.
That's what.
It's just a question.
That's what I meant.
But it is up to the Town Council to put those bids in.
Yeah.
I mean, on the subject of match funding, I mean, my understanding is that is literally just if the council wants more schemes to go ahead, it can supplement the PIPIF funding to make that money go further. And if you don't match funds, then there's just less projects can be funded because the overall pot is a fixed size. And so, you know, if you wanted more projects to happen and you've got a long list, you've got to put something to make that money go further, and that hasn't happened. And to be honest, I'm disappointed that's not happened. I'm not clear on what the issues with the CCTV are. I don't really want to get into it too much. I just, you know, I really urge the Town Council through you tonight, as you're the only one here. Something needs to happen immediately, and I hope you could maybe do an emergency meeting and get in contact with Mr.
Well,
Gifford.
I know we've been waiting for this update, which we've all just seen, so can't really great timing. So, and we'll discuss between all the councils. I can't speak for all of them now. So, but as far as I was aware, we were waiting for an application for phase 2. I haven't heard anything about going towards the phase 2 at our council. So.
Okay. Councillor Land, the final thing.
Yes.
We'll move on.
Yes. So just to say that it sounds as though you just need to talk to Ryan and hopefully, because I would hate to see, you know, the year project's lost. You know what's going on. I'm supporting you really, you know.
for that discussion. Item 11 then, we've got street naming and numbering. New development on Dockwith Road, Kelbrook. You fancy the other ones?
Laura, I'd just like to say thank you for the very good meeting.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Yeah, even better than me. I don't think I've been to this.
I've said at the executive that this should be devolved to area committees, as it has been in the past, but it's for some reason it's changed. We're giving a recommendation to the executive on street names. So this is the Evian Courts. This is Dr. Kelvin. So I open the floor.
If I may, Chair, I've just finalised reading this. Some of the residents that I've spoken to live either on Doctors Road or Millbeck, which say things for ease of identification, either Doctcliff Close or Millbeck Close. I've just read your definition of close here on the back of the Appendix 3. To all intents and purposes, it is a cul-de-sac, really. You can't get anywhere. When you drive on there, it's just a 3 hours to turn around and come back. So it is a cul-de-sac. So they mentioned close. So Millbeck Close, Mill Close. I don't know about yard, but it's not.
You could just carry on,
Yeah, it could carry on with numbers, or it could be Doctors Close, Millbeck Close, because it's at the top of Doctors Road and it's at the edge of Millbeck Lane. So just for ease of identification and postman delivery name, I don't know.
I think there is a hesitancy generally to go with something that's, immediately similar. I think Millbeck Close being like parallel would be okay, I think, in that context.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how these things work. I'm just telling you. I spoke to a few people this week, and after reading the paper, but it's more of a close than anything else because it is a cul-de-sac. You can't go anywhere. You drive on there. You've got to turn around and come back. So it is a close. So Mill Close
keeps the heritage as well.
It does, yeah.
Call it Mill.
Yeah, because it wasn't.
Mill.
I'll just draw attention for members and parties. The applicant has suggested 3 names, which is Mill Yard Drive, or Doctcliff Road. Doctcliff Drive?
Doctcliff Drive.
That's a mistake.
It's not Doctcliff Drive, is it? It's a close.
I suggest it's not too close. It either continues with the numbering as is, or it's not close to anything around it. We have lots of problems with Victoria Street and Victoria Road nearby, where mail gets delivered to the wrong place. And it just mentioned about the mail, and we're having problems down here with the mail without having an extra complication in there.
Councillor Hartley.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the name suggestions on here and agree that it's not a drive. Have a wood Mill Yard, then kind of highlight the fact that it's a cul-de-sac and put that preferential the version to go with. Thank you.
Because you don't actually need to have a suffix at all if you don't want. It could just be Mill Yard. So I'm just asking for a preference, really. Or we can continue with numbers from the existing numbering scheme. Councillor Witt.
Chairman, no, you can't do that because there ain't enough numbers. I know there's an infinite number of numbers, but you've got 18 existing Doctcliff Road, and then as you go further up Doctcliff Road, you've got number 24, 26 and 28. So you've only got 20 and 22, you've got 3 properties. So you can't carry on with the existing numbering. I think it has to be something different. Not different to what has been discussed.
Yes.
Not Cliff Road.
Yeah, it shows it would be 24A if it was 2022. On the second, Right, so there's agreement that we don't want the continued numbering. So I think we include that in our recommendation to accept. Is there any names that we discount? I think Dockcliff Drive, I would say we discount from.
It's not a
from the just the similarity. Millbeck, Millyard. I mean, are members agreeable to Millyard? Does that? I mean, that sounds quite nice. Just to say, if there's any local doctors who've retired after that, I shouldn't add more to the agreeable to Millyard? Yeah. Okay. Everybody happy? Okay, so thank you very much. See you soon. Right, let's move. We've still got item 12. Right, so item 12A, Horton servicing shall go between Knoll Street and Castle View by
Scott Hall is happy to do a site visit. It's whether or not he was ward councillors or all councillors.
I think just ward councillors. Does Barnes want to council on that?
You do know.
Okay, that's fine. Just ward councillors.
Yeah.
B, Northland Community Centre, that's ongoing consultation with residents. Did you get anything back from your contacts on Northland?
Yes, Chairman. I think 3 people have shown interest.
Okay.
Well, shown interest to me, and maybe other forward as well.
3 is the minimum number to constitute a new entity. So I mean that is entirely possible to make a start there. For registering with the FCA.
I'll pass on the details.
Yeah, brilliant. Item C then, actions submissions awaited from LCC following site visit to Church School, Clifford Street, Barn, Knowleswick. Have we got a response from LCC on this?
I have no response. I'm looking to Joanne in case she said anything later.
No. Okay, we'll leave that outstanding for next meeting. Maybe a follow-up.
It's Scott that's been.
Yeah, it's been done really well. Right, so item 13 then, exclusion of press and public. This is going to kick everyone out of business council. We've just got some final things that are commercially sensitive or GDPR compliance issues that we can't discuss in public. So thank you very much for sticking to the end. You've done really well.
I wonder whether you'd let me have a really quick word.
Go on.
I've got some information. I feel you should